and welcome to this episode of Stitch in Time. Joining me today is Insurance Ombudsman Vinay Saha. He's the Insurance Ombudsman for Maharashtra. Thank you very much, sir, like always, for coming by. Today we'll focus on one aspect of mis-selling along which we get a lot of complaints, and I'm sure so do you, is that consumers feel that when they're buying an insurance product, they're not told that it comes with a lock-in of 5 years. And many times they are sold without this information, and even though this information is in the policy document, but they seem to believe that the agent or the distributor has not informed them clearly about this lock-in clause. Can you tell us a little about the nature of such complaints that you've been receiving, sir?
Yeah, good morning and thank you, Vivek. Yes, we do receive a lot of complaints wherein the customer has either not been told about it at all, or he has been misinformed about it. Sometimes what happens is the customer is being told about the lock-in period, that there's a lock-in period of 3 years, but he or she is not told that what exactly they will get after 3 years. The surrender value which they get usually is 1/3 or 1/4 of the premium that they have paid over a period of 3 years. So that happens, and we get a lot of complaints regarding that. What I would like to say here before we go ahead is that the customer has to understand 2-3 things basically. Number one is, why is a lock-in necessary for an insurance product? They should understand that the company does it. They need to have a lock-in period for recovering the expenses of marketing and selling of the policy. They have a break-even point for selling the policy, for which they have to have a lock-in period. In case of ULIP policies, probably most of the times the customer feels that he or she can have a short-term gain in a period of 1 year, 2 year, and that cannot happen in an insurance product at least. So this is what the customer should understand. Number two, they should also see that any product, and least of all an insurance product, can give very high fantastic results in 1, 2, 3 years, and they can withdraw the money from the company. So these two things they have to understand. But yes, we do get complaints wherein number one, either the customers are not being told about the lock-in period. Number two, they are being told that there is a lock-in period, but they are not being told what they will get after that lock-in period of 3 years is over. And in case of ULIP policies also, mostly we get complaints wherein they are told that there is a lock-in of 3 years only, whereas it is 5 years. The customers can stop paying premium after 3 years in a ULIP product, but then it freezes and they get the money only after 5 years. So in a traditional policy, currently the lock-in period is 3 years for most of the product, 99% of the products. 1% I am leaving for some pension products where you can surrender policy even after 1 year under some clauses. And in ULIP, currently the lock-in period in all the products across board is 5 years.
So is the problem also, sir, that consumers tend not to read policy documents? Because I'm presuming that all of these details, and there's been a lot of focus on standardization of policies, etc. over the years. All of these details would probably be there in the policies. Is it because they are not disclosed as prominently as it should be, or is it that consumers are not reading before buying a product and only relying on what their distributor or agent is telling them? Is where does the problem lie? Because I'm sure it's there in the policy document.
Yes, Rick, it's there clearly mentioned in the policy document. But before coming to that, we need to have a look into how the policy is purchased these days. In most of the cases, I would not say in all the cases, in most of the cases. Mostly customers, they sign the proposal form, but they do not fill them. Number two, they do not rely or they do not ask for authentic sales brochure from the company. Number three, reading fine prints in the policy document also sometimes becomes, expecting too much from the customer. And as you said, probably the company should have at least these clauses at a very prominent place on the face of the policy, just close to the schedule of the policy. Two more things are there which go in favor of the company. One is that in most of the cases, there is a pre-issuance verification call, wherein things related to surrender of the policy or questions relating to that are asked by the company. And in case of online policies, it is mandated that there should be a face-to-face meeting which ends with both the parties signing the face-to-face meeting form. Now, what is happening is that in most of the cases, the customers trust the intermediary 100%, and he just signs on the document called proposal form and does not read the policy document. As every one of us knows, the policy bond comes with a cooling off period, and you can return the policy in 15 days if you are not sufficient. So that is what is happening now. And yes, I agree with what you say, is that customers are not reading it, the proposal, the policy bond, once they receive it.
So what is the recourse in such a case? When such cases come before you, how do you really adjudicate a situation where something is there in the policy document? And sometimes this could just be a private conversation between an agent and the consumer. As the ombudsman, how would you or other ombudsmen look at a case such as this?
Vivek, it's very difficult actually to prove anything in individual cases. But then we see the overall circumstance, what in legal terms they call as a circumstantial evidence. We have similar complaints from a large number of customers at times from the same area. We have similar complaints wherein the same distributor intermediary is involved. We have cluster complaints, that is one customer having policies with several companies, same distributor around the same time. And fourth, we have insurance taken at the same time by several customers who are known to each other through one company and through the same distributor. Now, these are all circumstantial evidences wherein we give benefit of doubt to the customer and assume that whatever he or she is saying is correct about the mis-selling of the policies. There may be other factors also, like for instance, the money that is being paid as a premium, either mostly in cases of single premium in such cases, is a money which the customer has obtained as a one-time gain. It could be his retirement proceeds. It could be his taking a policy at an advanced age. It could be sale of some property. It could be maturity of an old policy. So looking into all these aspects, we do give a benefit of doubt to the customer, and such cases are taken to a natural conclusion, and mostly it goes in favor of the customer. But yes, as I said at the very start, that to prove it in individual cases where none or most of these cases are not there, then it becomes a bit difficult to prove and give benefit of doubt to the customer.
All right, sir, we leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us here on Stitch in Time and sharing your perspective. I do hope consumers who have listened to Mr. Saab will keep in mind that you must read all policy documents. They have a lot of information in them. Don't just go by what your distributor tells you. Make sure that you read every policy document, and that will help you not get into a trouble of this kind. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.